Hello everyone, it's Naylan here at Nalitech Studio. So today we are going to look at how to create this conceptual model within Archicad. And for that, you may want to download the image which I have attached below such that you may be able to follow along just fine. And before we continue, I'd like to give a shout out to the person who actually did this work. If we head over to the Facebook, you can see there's this page here. I cannot pronounce this name well, so you can go ahead and check it out. Here is the name, and they really have some cool work that is going on here. So shout out to this person for actually doing some amazing stuff. And without much further ado, let's get started with this video. All right, so for the modeling, we are going to start from the 3D window because we're going to do almost everything in 3D since it's a conceptual kind of setup. First of all, I'd like to right click and say 3D styles and make sure that I change everything here to a black and white model such that we do not deal with textures at this time. So I'm going to choose white model with shadows, and under general, I'd change the background to black. So I already have a black here, so I'm going to choose that one, and the foreground as well is going to be black. So I would say okay, and you can see everything turns black. So right now we are going to start modeling from the slab tool. So picking the slab tool, if I bring up this reference image first, you can see that we have a platform on which we have those steps, and then we can continue to do the model itself. So let's head over to Archicad and begin to draw with the slab tool. So with the slab tool selected, I'm going to change its structure from under structure to a simple structure so that we are able to change this thickness of it. So I'm going to use 150 because I'm interested in the height of a single step of a stair, which is 150. And I think everything else can stay the way it is. And then I'll go ahead and draw my first line using the third method of construction, which is right here. And I'm going to make this 30 meters by 30 meters. And you can see we have ourselves a platform from which we are going to start working. So now let's create those steps that we are seeing. So let's make a copy of this, Ctrl+Shift+D. I'm going to make a copy of this up here, and I'll scale it down such that the building will take a smaller portion of this side. So something like by 2 meters, I guess, something like that. And we want to be able to chop off these things which you're seeing, like this part. We remove this section and remove this portion as well. So let's go ahead and subtract here by clicking on any of these edges. I can pick subtract from polygon and get rid of a section like this one here. So just draw that shape and you can see it has been removed. And I'll do the same for this other side. So clicking on subtract from polygon, I can remove this part right here. Cool, right. So now let's make some more steps. So we make a copy of this, Ctrl+Shift+D, and put it on top of this one, and make sure that we offset all edges. If you click on the edge, and you have this option for offsetting all edges by 300, and we're going to Ctrl+Shift+D to create a copy, offset all edges by another 300. And I think those are just about enough steps. If I look at here the reference, we just have 3. Good for us. So now we want to go ahead and start on the building itself. So it's a simple building, just blocks, and actually there are 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. So let's create those in Archicad here. So we are going to pick the slab tool and we make it the height of a single story, which is about 3 meters in my case. So I'm going to make it 3 meters, and I'll go ahead and decide how big this should be. So I think it should take up to there, yeah, just eyeballing. And with it selected, you can see it has been formed from underneath. So we want to change the reference from the top to the bottom. So we change that, and you can see that now it has been formed at the top. And as well, I'd like to make a copy of it to make the second form. So that's one form, Ctrl+Shift+T to make a copy of this. And we would like to make this, to take it all the way to somewhere like here. Yeah. And let's make it, extrude it by all the way to around 9 meters. Because if I look at this reference, we have this first story, then the second story, and the third story. So if we chose 3 meters, that would make it 9 meters. So I'll go ahead and extrude this and make it 9 meters. Great. And then we need to make it smaller, because you can see that this is way too small, way thinner. So I'm going to pull this back by, I don't know, just eyeballing it. So using the offset, a single edge, we can take it back, and let's pick this part right here. Good. And now that's more like it. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Next is the next form, which is on top of this. So I'm going to make a copy of this, Ctrl+Shift+D, and move it to the top here by 6 meters, yeah, such that it leaves a story beneath. And I'll make it smaller because it's a floating form. If you can see here, it's floating here. Next is, I'd like to make the same copy, but this time on this other side. So Ctrl+Shift+D, make sure you hold down Shift in order to move this to somewhere here. And now we can extrude this by just clicking on the edge, and with the extrude option selected, you can see that now we have ourselves a form, and that's the basic form. So now we need the glass to be around this thing. So let's pick any of these forms and we duplicate it and make it a glass. So Ctrl+Shift+D. Once we duplicate that, we want to make it taller to cover the entire shape, but let's just change it to material from concrete to glass, such that you can see that it is a see-through, and let's make it big to cover the entire shape. And of course, this glass does not start from right here. If we look at the trace reference, at the reference, you can see that it has been inset by a small distance, perhaps like a meter or half a meter. So let's have this selected and move it backward by offsetting it from all the sides inward to something like 500. Yeah, I think that will do for now. Now we want to be able to also reduce the height of it, because if you look at this, you can see this is not the same height as that. So let's reduce it by 500, which makes this 8.5, I guess. Yes. So right now we want to be able to show those lines on where the glass meets the other forms. So for that, I'm going to, with this glass selected, I'm going to right click, connect, and say solid element operations. So this is going to enable us to subtract the other forms and just get this to be independent rather than what it is currently showing. So right now you can see with this selected, it has been picked as a target. Make sure that that glass is picked as the target. So now let's pick these other forms. So I'm going to select these 4 forms and I will choose them as the operators. So you can see 4 operators have been selected, and then make sure that this subtraction is the operation that we're going to do. And I'll say execute, and you can see that it has been executed. Okay, so once we have this form ready, we want to now create frames around this glass such that the glass doesn't float in the air. It needs to have some framing around. Good. So for that, we're going to pick the beam tool. So with the beam tool selected, you can see that if I hold down the space bar, it snaps to wherever I take it. So first of all, I can see it's really big, so I want to scale it down. So I'm going to do that by reducing here. I think I may need it to be around 150 by 150. So I'll go ahead and change that thickness. And as well, I need it to change the reference to the center such that it's easy for me to place it with the glass to be in the center. That will be it. So space click, so hold down the space bar and click, and you can see that we have our very first frame. Easy, right? So I'll go ahead and space click in a frame at the bottom as well. So we have those two now. And of course, we need to also add the frames around this other section. And you can see if we try to space click also, we have these other unwanted frames that are going around. So we might need to change the way we are drawing this. So under geometry, we can pick this polygonal kind of method such that we can be able to draw across the entire thing by clicking on the corners by corners. And of course, I may need to navigate to this other side. So press O in order to orbit, and I'll go here and place this, double click to finish, and we have ourselves a frame across this thing. And as well, we need a frame, we need a vertical frame, and of course the beam tool cannot work for vertical ones, so we may need a column for that. So you select a column for that. And of course, we also need to make sure that it's the same dimension. So I'm going to make this 150 by 150. And since this is linked, you can see that it actually becomes 150 by 150. And I'll go ahead and just click on this point, and you can see it has been formed. All I need is to stretch it such that by clicking on the top and using the first option here in order to have it taller than it is, to, if I hold down shift, I can align with that beam right there. And that actually does look neat. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and pick the same column by alt clicking it, and then I place it in here. So if I click on this corner, you can see that that gets formed with the same height as well. We go ahead and go around and make sure to put those forms in there. So I have this one here, and as well I have this one here, which is supposed to be double height. So I'm going to select it and extrude it upward to somewhere there. Good. And I have this one as well, which goes triple height to the topmost right there. Awesome. So then of course we need to be vigilant on the spaces, on the places which are facing the camera, because we are likely to have a render from this side. So you want to make sure that you're putting in the right beam. So I'm going to pick the beam tool and be sure to put a beam across here, because this is a vital one, because we're going to see it on camera. We don't have to do every single one of them, but just only those that are going to be visible on camera. And of course we have this one as well, this one which is right here. And of course you've got to be careful, because you can place it in the wrong way. So I'll do that again by making sure that I'm actually clicking on the right places. Great, which is looking cool, right? And you can see in just a few steps, now we have ourselves a clean model. Great. So now we want to place in placeholders for the vegetation. So if I look at the reference, we have something going on here, just a few areas where we're going to put some patch of vegetation. So I'll do that by using the same slab here, alt clicking, then I pick this slab tool and change the reference from top to bottom such that it is created at the top. And of course, I'll go ahead and estimate a small portion of area, something like that. And perhaps I could move it just a little bit. And let's make a copy of it in order to create that inner portion. And extrude it inward by about, I don't know, 100, and make sure we subtract that from this polygon. So clicking on the edge, we choose subtract from polygon and space, hold down the space bar to remove that section. It has been removed. So now if we select this one, we can extrude it downward. Yeah, change it height downward, and we have ourselves a beautiful spot to put some vegetation. So these two need to be multiplied to have some vegetation in this area, and as well in this other area. Hold down shift to keep it, you know, in horizontal, and then here we can just move it to somewhere like that. Cool. So right now we are through with this model, sort of, I think. And of course I need to also look out for portions like this that have been neglected. So I'll pick this column and put it somewhere here, because we need a column somewhere here for the glass framing. So okay, so you can go ahead and inspect and be able to finish. So now we're going to render this in Twinmotion. So let's open up Epic Games and render this. Oh. All right, so once Twinmotion is open, we're going to click import in order to import. And yeah, nameless, we haven't given a name to our file yet, so let's import that nameless thing going on. And then let's come here, and we can see it's not yet there, of course, and that's because we need to sync it within Archicad. So we click on this sync button. If you are not able to see this, make sure that you're in window palettes. Make sure that you go to window palettes, and then you go down to Datasmith. So now you can be able to see these palettes, and once I click here, it should sync together with Twinmotion, and now you can see the model is already here. And if you cannot see where your model is placed, make sure to click here on this file, press F, and it will be put in focus. So now here we have it. So we want to select this ground and hide it. We do not need it. And then as well, we want to remove that background right there. So under settings, you want to go to location and then background here. So let's take that background off and say none. And now, yes, it's floating in the air, and this is what we want. Now we want to add some lights in here. So under settings as well, we want to go back to lighting, and we need to change from dynamic sky to skylight, HDRI, because generally that tends to light a little bit better than the harsh sky, the harsh dynamic light, in my opinion. All right, there it is. And in more here, we want to check this. This is neon clear 01. Let's go to the HDRI environment, and under skies, which is here in the noon, let's look at the clear ones, like the ones we have, the one we have here by default. You can always choose the one you so wish to see, and I chose this one because it lights a little bit better, in my opinion, because it doesn't have harsh lighting but subtle lighting. So there it is, and let's take those shadows to the back, something like that. And then under lighting, we might need to take this exposure a little bit lower because it's a bit high. -1 I think does work for me. Let's reduce that sun intensity because we need to see the steps. Okay, let's take this down as well. Now let's add some textures here. So for that, we're going to go in library materials, and let's pick a texture here for the wall. And I do kind of like how this texture looks, though not the color. So I'm going to put this texture in here and change this color to a white. So I'll go ahead and put in the white color code, which is FFF. Yep, just F6 times. and that's white. So now let's take this scale up a little bit, because right now it's at 1. Let's make it like 3 times bigger. So much better. So let's go more and add some grunge effect, just to give it a little bit of detail, and I like it. The next material is going to be glass. So let's go back here and pick a glass, drop it in there. And as well, I need to choose how that would look. So right now it's clear white. So let's take this to the greenish kind of thing, you know, to show that it is reflecting the sky or something. Let's add a dark green, a dark greenish blue glass thing, such that in case this was deeper, you can see that we have some greenish tint in here. But I'll take it back to the 30 to 40 in between there. Okay, and then again we want to add this one last material, which is this glass framing. And for that, of course, you can add any other. Let's see here, brushed aluminium, and this is what it looks like. And as well, I think there's an object here in Twinmotion. If I go objects, home, living room, the very first chair that they do have has some black. I think I'm going to use this. I'm not gonna try to recreate it, so I'll get a color picker here, pick this color and drop it in here. Great, so now I can delete this, I don't need it anymore. And then let me take the reflection up a little bit, just so that it's much more reflective. Great. Now we want to also add vegetation in here, because we already demarcated the area for this vegetation. So let's go here, pick vegetation in the library and the bushes. Let's go down these short vegetation. I think this will do for us. So go ahead and put some of that here. Great, so I'll leave some space for that middle tree, and around here as well. Cool. And next we go around here, the third position, and then finally we go around to this place here, and we will put the vegetation around this place. Cool. So now let's add the trees, the tall trees, and we'll do that from trees, of course, but we want small ones, small scales, which you will find a little bit to the low side. Yeah, this vine maple, I think, is a low-lying tree, so I'm going to put it here and there. And we need a much taller tree for this other area. Let's try this Japanese walnut. Yep, let's put it here and here. Great, we're done. Now we need some posed characters, so let's go do that. Under the library we have characters and posed characters. So under casual we should get some people. Let's get like this guy here, put him with somebody to jazz with, and let's have a guy somewhere here facing the building, of course, that's the focus. And let's bring Scott right in there, and Diego as well. Yep, let's put him right there. Okay, great, this is interesting. Okay, so now once you're happy, we create the camera position. So camera here, create image, and you can see that it has been created. And under more camera settings, we want to reduce the focal length, rather increase it to something like 20, I don't know, 25 millimeters. Okay, that's much better, but we will need to go back with S, okay, into this area. And let's update the image. Don't forget to update so you don't lose that camera position. And now let's add some lights inside here that will put in some nice character. So let's go under here, lights, and then put a light in here. And don't forget, it's the last thing that you will be at the bottom. And let's attenuate it by I don't know, 10 meters. Great, such that it lights the whole thing. So this, it may need to be like 1,000 lumen. Yeah, that's much bigger. And as well, that one light may not be enough, so let's have one there and another one here, an instance there. Okay, great. And as well, we need to reduce the temperature such that it's not white, it casts a yellowish, yeah, so around 3000 kelvins should do. Okay, great. So now here, yes, we have that yellowish light going through. Great. So let's add some clay, make it a clay render. Let's go in more. Once we go to camera, we have effects, visual effects, and let's get some clay render here, because that will enable us to get rid of the textures that are present with the characters in Twinmotion. So let's make this disappear from others. We make it disappear from items, as those glass frames, and as well from the glass. Yes, great. So the rest of the things can be overridden, and we can choose the color. Let's go ahead and choose, so you can go around and see what color that you so wish. I think I already have one here. Yeah, so here's the color code, or CB8F5E. So this is what I'm going to go with. I say okay, and oh, that looks awesome, doesn't it? So let's go and export this, and hit export, and we're done. All right, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oof, finally.